tell us a little bit about a kid this year that you were maybe stuck on, or somebody you need to figure out better, and then how you help that kid grow? Everybody's got those ones that, you know, you're waking up in the morning thinking about.
Yeah, there's two that really come to mind. I've got, you know, one a success story and then one a failure. I still worry about her. So I'll start with the failure first, and hopefully you'll forget that one and remember the successful one. So Nichelle was a student of mine, so smart, such a good reader, such a good writer, but she just quit. She quit. She stopped coming to class the end of April, and you know, she'd come periodically. When she'd come to class, she'd leave to go to the bathroom and just wander the halls. I just wasn't sure how to get her engaged.
Do you feel like she wasn't coming to class because of something do you feel like you could have engaged her with instruction more, that could have helped her overcome life stuff to get to class?
You know, I don't know. It would be really easy to blame it on stuff that was happening at home, but I don't have control over that. The only thing that I really have control over is the time I have in class with kids. And so I just keep thinking, you know, if I would have found a better text, if I would have figured out how to give her some more individual support, if I would have scaffolded for her more. So I think it's the Nichelles that keep me in the classroom, that keep me reading, going to conferences, trying to learn from my colleagues, because, you know, I've taught for 28 years, and there are still kids I have that I don't meet their needs. And I think sometimes when you read professional books, you sometimes think that the person who's writing them has it all figured out, and I don't. I mean, I think our job is so hard and so complex that that's the last thing I want to do is convey that, you know, this is easy, and if you just do this, everything's going to be perfect.
So what are those? Take us through some of those questions you ask yourself when you notice a kid isn't engaged. And let's put the kid that doesn't come aside for a minute, because I think that one is just so stressful for us, because it's out of our control. Yeah. So let's think about the kid that is in our control, that shows up every day. And but for some reason they're not engaging. What are the questions you ask yourself to try to figure out how you're going to help that kid get engaged?
So as you talk about that, I'm thinking about Javier, who came every day. And sometimes he was really engaged, and then other times he was disengaged. And so when that disengagement started to present itself, immediately I had to start asking myself questions. Okay, what does he need? Is the book too hard? Is the book too boring? Is the writing too hard? Does he know what I want him to do? Do I need to do some more modeling for him? Does he need to sit in a different place? It's almost like, you said this once, I think years ago, it's like a research project. Every day we get to go into the classroom and we get to try to figure out what kids need. And so for me, like when kids aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing, I need to go back and look at my instruction and see, you know, where I need to put some more effort. Is it in the planning? Do I have something that the kids are working towards that has an audience besides me? Do they have the skills and strategies to stick with the work? Do they have the stamina? Do they have the proper text? So when things are humming, when Javier was working, those things were in place. He was working towards an audience other than myself. He was doing authentic work. He was reading books that were at his interest level, but also, you know, at his reading level. There are those other kids, those compliant kids that will do whatever I ask. They're also a challenge because they're just doing the work for the grade or for me. So they'll get the A with or without me, it doesn't matter. But what I really want them to do is become more strategic and better readers, writers, and thinkers. And so they're pushing me as well to think about that engagement piece.
So you have a whole chapter in the book about annotations and the power of kids leaving tracks of their thinking next to text and how that helps you figure out what they need next. Can you give us some specific examples of what student annotations tell you and how you use those to figure out what you're doing the next day?
Yeah, well, it goes back to being able to manage something. What's great about annotations is there's more than one right answer. And so kids don't feel they have to cheat to get the points. Oh, yeah. They get to be really honest about their thinking. And so when I read annotations, I'm often surprised by what they write. The questions that they ask that I've thought, you know, I just assumed that they knew. So it allows me to go back and fill in gaps in their, you know, background knowledge, stuff that they don't know about the content. I get a little bit of insight into their writing. Their spelling, their, you know, just little things, mechanical things like that by what they write. I also get insight into their stamina and their endurance, but then also how they're thinking about text. Are they just looking at it from the plot level or the factual recall level? Or are they really going beyond those words and thinking about, interpretation and inferring? And so I think that one tool allows me to differentiate for every single kid in that classroom. Like they can enter in at whatever point they are, whatever skill level they are. They can just kind of show me what they know at that moment. And from there, I can just go in so many directions figuring out what I need to go next, where I go next. I can look for patterns of confusion. I can look for things that kids are doing really well that I don't need to spend class time teaching again.
Yeah, and I think that's what teachers are going to love about the book is that you have the text with the annotations, and then you say, okay, here's what I figured out about Berger from the tracks that she left me. So I think that's going to be a really exciting piece. I think the other piece that teachers are going to be so hungry for is kind of what you started us off with, that idea of what is the line between assessment and grading, and what is the purpose of assessment and what is the purpose of grading, and how do you think that through as a teacher, and then share how does a grade truly represent what a student knows, what a student can do, and what a student understands, and how do you put a stamp on that of an A, B, or C? So you want to talk a little bit about your thinking about how you started to separate grading and assessment?
Yeah, I had to really think that one really I had to struggle through that. Grading and assessment are very different, and I think that I tried to kind of make them both vanilla-ish because I didn't ever want a kid to think that he was a B student or a C student for everything, and so that giving them that grade seemed so permanent, so final. So what I've tried to kind of think through is giving kids points for working through the process, because as kids get older, they don't do things just because they like you. There's got to be some sort of, something. And so I've tried to figure out how to get them to engage in the practice piece, but then also how is that different from assessment that will inform my instruction, but also inform their learning. And I talk about 3 different options, ways I grade that I think will help teachers see that, yes, there's that practice time, there's that improvement time, and then there's that, okay, now we got to move on, tell me what you really get.
That mastery.
Mm-hmm,
right?
that mastery. And I think so often as kids go through the grade levels, they're graded only on mastery. Mm-hmm. And so I want to also be able to honor their attempts at engaging just in the process. And I also want to really honor and support them showing me what they know, giving them another opportunity, teaching them something, and then letting them try again to demonstrate understanding. But then the realities of it is that we have deadlines, and we've got to also, it's time to show me what you know right now based on the work that we've done up to this point. And we've then got to move on. So I try really hard in the book to acknowledge sort of the real world realities of grading, but then also take that research and make it manageable so we don't have to sort of succumb to just grading something because it's easy, not because it's something we truly value that kids know.
Do you have a favorite part of the book? Something that you're just really excited about to share with people?
Well, it's sort of corny, but I like the part about where I'm introducing workshop model, and I compare it to things that I see people who aren't typically considered reading teachers doing. And, so that workshop model is so similar to what good athletic coaches do. If you really want to see workshop model in action, go into a tech ed classroom or a family consumers classroom where they're baking or making something. And I think that whole idea in the world outside of school, oftentimes there is this master who's apprenticing the learner, and the master shows the learner something, but then the master backs off and lets that learner practice it and try it. And I think just kind of making those analogies that this is not something new, it's been around forever, but here's how it might look in your classroom with your science students or with your math classes or while kids are reading a novel. And I think workshop was something that really took off at the elementary level and somewhat at the middle school level, but I think it can really take off in the content classrooms at the high school level, which is where it really is sort of uncharted territory. And I think teachers are going to be relieved because they're going to see a structure where they can begin planning for things that administrators are asking for, kids doing more of the work, more formative assessment and differentiation. Workshop model is going to really give them a way to try to be more compliant with all the demands that are being placed upon them.